Alright, so, like, from what I've read, there's, like, a lot of rumors about how Lumumba was killed or murdered. Do you have, like, your own theory, or do you know exactly what happened?
I don't know exactly what happened. I'm not sure anybody knows exactly what happened. He was trying to escape Kinshasa to get to Kisangani, which was sort of a center of his support. And the Chinese and some of the communist countries that were backing him had access to bring their weapons and stuff and guns and supplies into Kisangani, and he was trying to escape to get up there where he had backing and he had military force to counter Mobutu and the ones who were after him. They got to the landing. There's a ferry. He'd gone to I don't know how he got through Ilebo, but he got through Ilebo and got up to Lodi, which is right across from the mission station of Lunga, where the Greens family worked for a number of years. And when he got there, the ferry apparently was on the other side, and he took a canoe, left his family on the side they were on, and he took a canoe to go over to get the ferry. And while he was on the other side, the soldiers showed up and captured his family. And then he came back to save his family. And that's when they captured him and took him back into Kinshasa. And he was tied and beat up and abused one thing or another. And eventually put on an airplane headed for Katanga, for where Chombe was power. Chombe claims he was dead when he got there. Others claim that he was taken off in the countryside somewhere, was killed, dumped in a vat of acid or something, and his body was dissolved in acid and disappeared, so there wouldn't be anything that people could make a monument out of. Others claim that his body was burnt. And, you know, they put him in a barrel with firewood or something and burn him, and so his ashes are scattered. All those are speculation.
We're not too sure what happened.
Not too sure what happened. No.
One of life's mysteries.
That's right. Somebody knows, and eventually it may be told, but right now nobody's revealing it.
Do you think Lumumba should have called on Russia's help, or maybe just kind of dropped the subject?
Who?
Prime Minister Lumumba, because from what I heard, he just...
Well, he did call on their help, and that's kind of what set the U.S. and Belgium so much against him.
Should he have done that?
I don't think so. I think he should have recognized the strong interest that the Belgium and the U.S. had in the country and tried to play some game of accommodation with them. And I think in the process he could have consolidated, he would have gotten support, and they wouldn't have undermined him and one thing or another, and it might have worked out. If the Belgians hadn't felt so threatened by him and some of the statements he made and the speeches he made, then they might have been able to work with him after independence. But you come to power and immediately alienate major powers. Even if you are at odds with them, the smart thing to do is kind of play along, play your own game, but not deliberately fly in their face to alienate them. Because then, you know, you're at odds, and no telling what they'll do. They may send you to Katanga in a body bag. That's right.
So what would you say does this whole thing have as an impact or effect on you or the other missionaries? Like,
well, most of the missionaries that evacuated never went back. The bulk of them left and went to other posts, were reassigned, came to the States, took other jobs, and left the mission altogether.
You came back there, right?
Yeah, but I don't know why. Basically, we had grown up, our parents had encouraged our relationship with the Congolese. We had good friends in the Congolese community when we were young, and as we grew up, we maintained those. And so we had a real attachment and love of the country and the people. After my father was killed there, I think we sort of felt, you know, He's buried there. That I'm sure that was an attraction to us to go back to, work where he'd given his life. So the riots themselves didn't have a lot of impact on us in terms of making our decision to go back. We were going to go back anyhow, particularly after all that was over. So 72, 9 years later, I went back. 69, Paul and his wife went back. And we've worked there all those years, raised our kids there, worked all our lives out there, and have been through other riots since. We've been evacuated a couple of times. I got beat up by soldiers at Chikaji. I was laid down on the ground to be shot, and as soon as I can get well enough to go back, I'm headed back.
One last question.
Yes, ma'am.
So I know that there's been more riots or kind of inter-tribal kind of conflict. Do you think like a large-scale kind of riot mutiny thing will ever happen like that?
Large-scale riot?
Kind of riot mutiny with the whole country involved.
I don't think there's likely to be one now. There was some manifestations during the most recent elections. Chisekedi and his people were trying to protest Kabila's election, and that was he legitimate, and they didn't like the way it was organized, one thing or another, some of which was legitimate. But Chisekedi wouldn't have done any better if he'd have been in power. So I'm not convinced that one Congolese leader is much more righteous than the next. Most of what you're going to find, I think, in Congo are tribal conflicts. And there's going to be some protests, but I don't think the Congolese right now, they went through the riots of 91, and then they had another one in 94, 93, somewhere along in there. They had a repeat of it, and they got nothing out of it. And you talk to them now about it, and they said that was the worst mistake anyone ever made. Because all we did is run off the companies that provided jobs, and some of them left and never came back. And, we lost our Belgian employers, and they've been replaced by Lebanese who are worse, or Indians who are worse than the Belgians in the way they treat the Congolese. And so they said, that was counterproductive. We ain't going to do that again. Now, whether or not they will or not, I don't know. But most of what you're going to find is tribal conflicts. Like over in the east, the genie's been let out of the box over there, and now you've got the Hem and the Lendu fighting with each other, and I don't know how you're going to stop that, because it's an ancient friction, and everybody wants to get retribution for his person who got killed, and there's no end to that. An eye for an eye, and then everybody's blind, as Gandhi has said.
Alright, I wasn't following the Congolese elections that took place, I think, earlier in the year. Like
last year, end of last year.
I wasn't too sure. Who got appointed?
Kabila was re-elected. He was running for a second term, and his main competition was a guy by the name of Chisekedi, who's been around for a long time. Chisekedi's from his village is a place called Kabeakamwana, which is between Lake Munkamba and Bushimai. And so he's Muluba, or what they call Baluba. And he was being promoted by the people from that area. He had led opposition to Lumumba back in the 90s, and at one point was appointed, I think he was appointed prime minister by Mobutu a couple of times, but then was immediately fired.